10 P's of business. So I started learning about business when I was at school, and we talked about the 4 P's of marketing. So this is quite a similar theme, but today business has got so much more complicated. Products, services have to be much more sophisticated than they ever have been before. Or 10 P's that I'm going to go through. One of them is problem, and we're going to discuss each one in turn. So 10 of these all start with P, and it's a similar theme. So problem, product, positioning, people, packaging, promotion, price, psychology, purchase and planet. And we're going to go through each of them in turn. So the first one is problem. So why start a business? So business is to solve meaningful problems profitably. And problem is the first thing you need to solve as a business. The whole purpose of a business is solving problems. So what problems do you want to solve when you're starting your business? So there are many pain points to look for. So the first thing is, who can you help? What problems can you solve? So to find these problems, they're everywhere. Once you start looking out for them, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, your job is to go out into the world and solve problems. And the more problems there are, the more opportunities there are to start your own business or to add on to additional businesses. So look for pain points. Where are problems? And it's also looking for where you can give people pleasure. So business is about solving people's pain points or giving them massive pleasure. So go out into the world and start listening for problems. So you'll hear about it. Maybe your friends are talking about it. Maybe your friends are saying how frustrated they are with certain things. Or online, if you go onto communities on Facebook, social media, LinkedIn, you'll start hearing people complain about certain things. And this is, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, this is where you can add value to people. And this is where you can start finding out business opportunities, business ideas, and testing them and seeing if there is validation in these problems in setting up your own business. So start looking at, speak to your friends, ask your friends what problems are they facing at the moment, what's their frustrations, what are their challenges, what problems are they having with technology or with their everyday life. You can go out even looking at newspapers, reading newspapers, going through what are people reporting on, where are their issues, what is frustrating people, and you as an entrepreneur, you as a business owner, go out and solve these problems. And that's where people will pay you money to solve their problems, to take away their pain or to give massive pleasure. And there are other bigger problems as well. So you might look at the sustainability goals, the 17 goals that the UN came out with for 2030. So these are huge problems, and these are certain things like quality education, gender equality, life on land, life in water. These are huge problems that humanity, the world, is facing. And as a business owner, you can go and say, actually, I can solve these problems, even if it's a small part, even if it's helping in a little way to solve these problems. So that's number one, and probably the most important. So the bigger problems you can solve, the more people will pay you money. The more people you help, the higher you're going to get paid. The more magnitude, the bigger problems you're going to solve, the bigger pay packet you're going to get from people. So number one is problems. So number two is product. So product is how you're going to solve these problems. So we talked before about product or problem, and your product is just a way to package up this idea to solve these problems. So it's a solution to these problems. So it's a benefit. So what benefit can you provide? And this benefit for the problems that you're solving is going to be your product. So it's going to be a product or service. So this could be a piece of machinery that you've invented. This may be a service that you can offer. It may be a gadget that you've created that makes something simpler, easier cheaper than the current offering. So you can look at one or two products that are already on the market and say, actually, I can make this better. I can make this cheaper. I can do this more efficient, faster, or make it more fun and easier. Or maybe you pick 2 or 3 products that are on the market already and combine them to form one ultimate product. Think of the iPhone. So Steve Jobs created you had a phone that you could dial and speak to someone. You had the internet, and then you also had music in one device. And it was also a global positioning system as well. You could have maps and connecting to the internet. So essentially, all these services or this technology was available. What the iPhone did was essentially package it up to one product, and that would solve someone's in a simpler way. So what benefit is a customer getting as well? So, and also what is the result? So to boil it down really, really simply, it's think of the product could be someone has a headache. This is the problem. Someone has a headache. Your product is the paracetamol, the drugs that has been created that you swallow that paracetamol and you don't have a headache anymore. You could be thirsty and you drink a bottle of water. Your bottle of water could be the product, and then they're not thirsty anymore. So it's a product problem, your product, and then that solves that problem. And that's number 2, product. So number 3 is positioning. So essentially, as a business, you need to position yourself in the market. So what is your niche? Where are you solving this problem? So once you understand your problem, once you've got your product, you want to position yourself in a niche. So where are you an expert? Where have you authority to solve these problems? So a doctor has qualifications, a business coach may have testimonials, a scientist may have won a Nobel Prize. So these are all positions in the market. And then once you have a product and your position, you want to understand, are you going to position yourself at the high end? Like if we're thinking about watch, so Rolex would be position themselves as a high end brand. You pay thousands of pounds for a Rolex watch and it does the same job as a Casio watch for £10. It's just positioned differently. It's just brand. So when you see someone wearing a Rolex watch, that person might have been successful in the past and they've done a business deal and they can have that, pay more money for a watch. A PC and a Mac, they both essentially are computers, but a Mac might be positioned to a creative person rather than a PC might be someone who's a bit more formal, more corporate. So decide on your business. Where are you going to position your brand, your business, and then dominate that position. So Domino's is a good example for being speedy. So they competed against Pizza Hut because Domino's essentially offered pizza in 30 minutes. So Volvo would be an example of safety. So essentially you want to focus on a niche and where you can focus on that where you can dominate that market. Essentially you want to create your own niche subcategory, and that's where you can kind of dominate rather than trying to compete with other people. If you create your own business, your own category, then you're going to be, it's what they call the blue ocean strategy. You're not going to be competing in the kind of bloody red ocean with other people. You have this whole market, this whole blue ocean to yourself where you've created your own category. So that's positioning, where you position your business. So number 4 is people. So this is adding on to the people you're going to aim towards. So it's 2 things. So the people you're going to aim towards, we talked before about your kind of positioning and the demographics or psychographics. So the demographics would be kind of age, gender, how much they're getting paid, whereas the psychographics is their lifestyle, their beliefs. It's a bit more deep and meaningful, the psychographics, and it's actually maybe it's 2 people who are 30 and getting paid the same amount of money. One person might really believe in environmental causes, and whereas someone else might be really into cars. Maybe they're not so concerned about the environment. And so on one position, it's your people who you're selling to. On the other hand, it's your people are your team. Who are you going to be? Who's going to be in your team working for you? So it's about having specialized knowledge. So when your team is growing, or when you move on from just being one person to forming a team, you want to start focusing on specialist skills. So if you're a business owner and you're working on your own, you tend to do all the tasks. You do everything. You do everything from the designing the products to the operations, to actually getting the product in the customer's hand, to the sales, to try and the promotion and the marketing. So you're doing everything. When your business grows, you start to specialize in certain areas, and this is called division of labor. And Adam Smith, who wrote a book called Wealth of Nations in 1750, essentially what started the whole capitalism. So what this huge growth we've seen in the last 200 years of capitalism, it started off with a division of labor, with a pin factory where each person had a specialist task. So one person would do one task, maybe that would be melting the pins. The other person would be next to them, putting the pins back together, and the next person might be putting a clasp on this pin. And essentially each person doing their own specialist task was much more efficient than one person making a pin from start to finish. And this can be in your business. So business chart would be, you want to have someone in focusing on sales and marketing. You want to have another person in operations trying to make that a delightful experience for the customer. So kind of a user experience, who might be building websites, might be building apps, might be building the product and delivering that product. Then you might have another person focusing on the finance. Where are you going to be getting your money from? What's the cash flow situation like? Do you need funding? Do you need to chase people to pay invoices? That's another section. And then another person would be your CEO, so Chief Operating Officer, and essentially that would be the kind of the front man of the band, so to speak, the kind of the team. So that person might be the one who is on camera, the one who's maybe writing the book about the area they're focusing on. Maybe that's the one who's in the media. This is the kind of the Steve Jobs person. That's the kind of the key person of influence, as Daniel Priestley calls it. So that's people. So yeah, it's not just the people you're selling to or your customers, your clients. It's also the people in your team. So you're kind of the band of specialist skills. So the sales and marketing, the operations, the finance, the key person of influence. So that's number 4, people. Number 5 is packaging. So how do you package up your product? And this is not just your physical packaging, how you put your packaging together. It's also how you create a value proposition. And we'll go into this. So think of a supermarket. You've maybe a can of soup. It's not just the soup itself. You need to have a packaging that's going to be attractive to the customer. They're going to walk past in the aisle and say, "Oh, that looks interesting." The kind of the branding as well, the bright, bold colours, and it's also going to explain about the ingredients and what's in the soup, and it's telling a story as well. So explaining about what your brand stands for and what it will bring for you if you buy this product. So it's not just about packaging up your product, it's also about packaging up your value offers. How much value can you give? So you'll listen to this product. This is a bonus section in one of my products about money. This is just an additional value to give you even more value for your money. So this is another way to increase satisfaction, to give more than the customer gets for their money. So McDonald's are kings of this. So McDonald's are really good at packaging up their products to offer more value. It's all about a value proposition. What's your value proposition? What are you offering the customer? And it's got to be way more, or it's got to be perceived way more than the person paying the money. So you've got to package up your product so when the customer pays that money, they're feeling like they're getting a bargain. They're feeling like almost that you've been put out, they're getting much more value than they're actually paying for. So McDonald's are great at this. So think of it, rather than just buying a hamburger, if you just bought a hamburger, that might be £2 or £3, and that would be fine. But what McDonald's do really well is they create a meal. So you don't just buy a hamburger. Like most people would go in and buy a meal, because you get a burger, you get fries, and you get a drink, and that together, that feels like it's much more valuable. But then you end up paying more. You end up actually handing over £5, but somehow you feel it's more valuable because it's a meal rather than just a hamburger. So the perceived value is much more by packaging up your product. So yeah, McDonald's are great at this, and even more value is a Happy Meal. So you have not just a meal, you don't just get a burger, fries, and a drink, but you also get a toy, and you get this kind of toy that keeps the child entertained. And you don't just get a toy, you get the packaging itself has puzzles and games and interesting facts on it. And when you pay £3 for a Happy Meal, and you feel like you're getting value, you feel like you're getting much more back than just the money you're handing over. So start thinking about how are you going to package up your product? How are you going to put things together that make things feel much more, the perceived value is much higher than you're actually paying for. So the customer has to feel valued, and it feels like you're getting much more than you're actually paying for. So packaging. So number 6 is promotion. So this is advertising. So how are you it's not just about creating a product and people are going to knock down your door for it. You have to go out into the world and promote what you're selling, or what your product. You've got to go out and explain to the world why people will benefit from using your product. You've got to go out and explain how you solve their problems, and you also have to create your market. So it's not about just creating a product and then selling it, but you also have to create a problem as well. So part of promotion is actually getting the person to understand that they have a problem. People might not even realize they have a problem. They might go into the world and not realize that they've got a problem, and it's you as a business owner to have to explain that you have a problem that needs solving. So an example of this is spyware. So people might not even realize that there was problems with your viruses, but until you told them about your computer might be getting hacked, you might not have invested in spyware. You might not have been invested in this product. And yeah, there was a really good book about this, actually, essentially creating your own market. And he uses the example of spyware. Essentially, some of the smartest people in technology essentially create these viruses just so they can have spyware that will go and create and prevent your computer from getting infected by this virus. Arguably that's pretty unethical, but it was a book and this example explaining about this much better than I'm explaining it here. But yeah, essentially you've got to create your own market. You've got to find your people and explain what the benefits of buying your product are. So this promotion might also be about running adverts. You might be putting adverts in social media. It might be about adverts in traditional media, the paper, newspapers, going on other people's podcasts to promote your product or service. It might be offering a special offer or a discount, or every year you run promotions. You might say, for this month we're going to reduce our product in half because to get more people on board. Or you might offer a special promotion where you include a freebie in it to increase more people into your offer. You might offer a promotion for free. You might offer many people offer a free promotion to get their email address, and then you can start promoting other things to them. So start thinking about how you're going to start promoting your product and service. It's one of the hardest things to do, to promote yourself. Many people sit and build their product, and the job is only half done when you've built your product. It's about telling people about it, and that's half the battle. After promotion, the next one is price. So this is the cost of your product. So what are people going to be paying for your product? How much are they going to be paying? Are you going to be pricing it high? Are you going to be pricing it low? You've got to work out your costs. You've got to work out your expenses. So how much is the raw materials of your product? How much is it going to be to actually make, how much do you need to sell to make money? Are you going to look at economies of scale where you have very tight margins, you have very small margins between the expenses and what you sell for, but because you sell loads of them, you can charge a reasonable price? Or are you going to offer a high price where you only need to sell a few, where you sell a few products or you can make, and then you pass on that cost to the consumer? So the higher your expenses, the more you can pass on to your consumer or your customer. And you need to understand profit as well. So profit is the costs of your raw materials, your expenses, and also how much essentially the person's paying. So number 8 is psychology, and this is super important. It's become really relevant the last few years. It's about mindset, and mindset is everything. So what you think and is everything really. So think about, we talk about selling. So how to sell requires psychology. What is the mind of the consumer? What are they going through? What if you can get inside of your customer and understand their problems, understand their frustrations and their fears, and you can, if you understand your customer more, then you can solve their problems even easier. So it's getting inside your customer's head, understanding their problems, and you can only do this by speaking to your customer, asking them what problems are you facing, what challenges are you facing, and then when you understand the customer's problem, then you can go out into the world, create a problem, go out into the world and create a solution to their problems, solving these problems. So understanding where they're coming from. So it's so easy to get this wrong, but if you can get this right, it's like a gold mine. It's the psychology of the customer is king, and to understand this is so important. So that's the psychology. So number 9 is purchase, and this is getting them actually, a customer to buy your product. So someone has to buy, to be a business, someone actually has to pay for your product. So we mentioned before, it's not just about creating a product, it's actually solving someone's problem. So someone's actually got to reach into their pocket, get out their wallet, put out their card and pay money for this. And that's the hardest battle, getting people to pay, having enough trust in your product that you can solve their problem, that they will pay their hard-earned money. And today, it's never been so noisy, especially social media. It's never been crammed, so crowded, so noisy. And who do you trust? The amount of trust is quite low with many people, and it's about building up that trust, making sure that you know that you can solve their problem. It's about being consistent and making sure that you actually do solve their problem. So that's purchasing. So actually making a sale, or getting someone to pay their money to a problem that you can solve. And then number 10 is planet. So planet is number 10. So we're in a finite world, we've got a climate crisis. So being a company that does good is becoming more important, and consumers are becoming much more aware of this. So information can spread so much faster than ever before, and with this it's more and more important to be a business that does good, or even at least think about not doing bad, not destroying the planet. And information can spread so quickly that it's so easy to lose a reputation quicker than ever. So think of it, treat everyone like your grandma with 1,000 Twitter followers, because one tweet can destroy all your hard work. So it's not something you can fake either. You must be authentic. So it's about thinking about the planet, think about the bigger part than just you. And the Sustainable Development Goals actually focus on a problem that's bigger than you, and that will mean that it's not just about you, it's about the bigger world, and it's, yes, a problem bigger than you that you can solve, or bigger than the problem that you're trying to solve for your customer, because it gives you a kind of a unity with your customer that you're fighting for something bigger than yourselves. So money tip to plant a tree for every book bought. So the goal that we're focusing on is life on land. So we're really focusing on planting a tree and for every book bought, and 5 trees for each coaching package bought. So if you're listening to this, you've been part of that, and this means that you have contributed to the planet, and you can feel good that you've done your part of your money has gone to planting a tree that will increase biodiversity and reduce the CO2 emissions or absorb some of the CO2 emissions that have been released. So this has been the 10 P's of business, and just quickly go through them again. So just to summarize, so number 1 is problems. So where are their pain points? Where can you solve problems? Number 2 is products. So essentially you've got to package up your product to solve this, to be a solution to this problem. So this product's got to be a solution to the problem. What benefit is the customer getting, and what result are you going to get? But then number 3 is positioning. So this is also having a niche. Where are you expert? Where do you have your authority? And also position yourself in the market. So are you high end? Are you low end? What kind of position are you going to kind of face? Where are you going to position yourself? Number 4, it's people. So this is people who your customers are, who your clients are, and also who your team is. So where are you going to bring in? Who are you going to bring in? And the best people to bring in are that complement your own, that essentially have skills that you don't have, or that you're not very good at. So there's no point bringing in someone that's also very good at the skills, the expertise that you have. If you're going to build a team, you've got to have someone that's going to be complementary to you. So someone who's going to be, if you're very good at sales and marketing, then maybe you bring on someone who's very technical. Or if you're very good at building websites, maybe you need to, and you're quite an introvert, you love coding, maybe you need to bring on someone who's very extrovert, who's very good at kind of going out into the world and speaking to people. So number 5 is packaging. So not just your packaging of your product, but also how you package your value offer. So how can you offer as much value as possible? Number 6 is promotion. This is both advertising, so going through social media, traditional media, newspapers, putting leaflets through people's doors, but it's also how many kind of offering special offers on these promotions. So maybe this is a discount a certain number of times a year, or having kind of a big promotion that you can push, have a deadline, have these short sprints that you can kind of focus on. And that's promotion. So number 7 is price. So the cost of your products. You've got to work out the expense, how much does it cost for your raw materials, and then add on your time and your labor, and then to make a profit. So you've got to be focusing on your profit. So what's the purpose of a business is to solve problems profitably. So that's price. Then number 8 is psychology, which is super important. So mindset. So it's not just about your own mindset. So maybe this is productivity, actually focusing on getting work done. It's also focusing on your customer psychology. So what are their pain points? Where are they coming from? Can you get inside their head to really solve the problem? And that's psychology. Number 9 is purchase. So someone's got to actually buy your product and service. So you've actually got to offer enough value, offer enough conviction, and to convince someone to purchase your product, and that's purchase. And number 10 is planet. So this has become more and more popular. So we're in a finite world. We're producing more and more rubbish around the world. There's a amount of landfills. There's a rubbish pile the size of Texas in the middle of the ocean that's filled up with plastic toothbrushes, plastic bottles. So it's about the planet. There's a number of different companies that do this really well. Finisterre are an example of a small company based in Cornwall. They make products that are recycled plastic. And it's about thinking about the world, and this is becoming more and more important for your customer and your consumer. And it's about being a company that does good rather than become a company doing bad. So that's been the 10 P's of business. So